I'm Emily, and I want to talk about kind of the dangers of isolation when we're on our journey of kind of transformation in Christ, trying to get out of the struggles that we have. Oftentimes, there are those like unhealthy or unwanted behaviors. Might call them sinful behaviors as Christians because they're usually things that kind of separate us from God or kind of go against His standards for us as His people. And so when we engage in those behaviors and then we experience a feeling of shame, often we find ourselves going into isolation. And then when we're in isolation, we go into kind of coping with that even greater feeling of shame and loneliness or rejection with those same behaviors that kind of started the cycle. Then that feeds into more shame, more isolation, and the loop just keeps going from there. We can kind of get stuck in this pattern, especially because of the feeling of shame that we experience. I like to kind of separate that experience as well into feeling healthy or unhealthy shame, because healthy shame can be productive. Healthy shame is very similar to like that feeling of guilt where we know like, okay, this is a repairable experience. We know that okay, I feel bad about this behavior or this thing that maybe had negative consequences, or it hurt someone, or it didn't align with my values of what I like truly believe. And so we experience that sense of shame, but it's healthy in the sense that we know, okay, these things I can repair, I can change, I can work towards doing differently. And then it kind of motivates us and helps us move on from that. But when shame is unhealthy, it becomes this thing that we identify with. And so we think instead of, that thing is something I don't want for myself, so I'm going to change it. We think, oh, I'm unwanted, I'm a bad person, I'm, unlovable, I'm bad. And so you start to identify with that shame instead of seeing it as something that is outside of yourself, separate from yourself. And so instead of, oh, that thing was bad, or that thing was unwanted, it's more so, I'm bad, I'm unwanted. And when we feel that way, then we're drawn into that isolation. And when we're in isolation is when we get really stuck. The best way to get unstuck from that sense of unhealthy shame is to be with other people, to share with other people, to take what was kind of in the dark and bring it into the light. And oftentimes when we try to do that, you want to make sure that it's a safe group. So whether it's a safe person that you trust, that you know cares about you, or whether you're in a group of people who know that, okay, what you're doing is not who you are, then that's going to create the space that you can actually start to move out of that negative loop, that negative cycle that you're stuck in, and start to actually experience that change in your life.